Hey brother, I'm Rain Svidwa and this is 404 Embassy podcast. For some of you, passport is a key, but for me, it's a ticking clock. 4 years left before I fade into a digital ghost. But what if nation is not a place, but it's a protocol? What if your identity could live on-chain? That's why we're here, to figure out how to stay alive and keep my sovereignty. And you as well. Today I'm talking with Kimberly Adams. She is building Onchain City, an operating system for a world where borders are nothing than lines of code. And she says it's coming sooner than we think.
As long as you hold a passport, you're subscribing to a set of ideologies. I was a very invisible kid. This is the best time to experiment. And worst comes to worst, we go to Mars.
This is an embassy broadcast. Begin now.
Can we a little bit go back to the on-chain city? Because I am obsessed with this project actually. What is the maybe like exact moment when you understand that it's really important to idea to like nation as a protocol goes on chain?
Actually, I think it was last year, Token 2049. I was coming out of it, and I just had this moment where I was like, oh, what if we had like a demo city that exists that shows all the primitives that's been built, all the tooling that we've built in the past 15 years of crypto and cryptography, and show that in a simulated environment where you have people living, you have, economic activity, and all of that is on chain, and you just build an example of that. And then I started to like go deeper in this thread. And while I was at Bankless Ventures full time, we looked at thousands of deals. And one thing that really struck at me is just like knowing for a fact that the world does not exist for a lot of these projects to thrive, although they're really, really amazing projects that could change the trajectory of, humanity. But there's like the fundamental issue, which is the economy doesn't, or the infrastructure that exists right now doesn't allow for that. And as I started to go a bit deeper on this idea and then saw the whole network state movement, cities being created, pop-up cities, charter cities, and so forth, I realized that, okay, we can actually do something, 10 steps further, which is to build out the protocol layer and the engine that facilitates that ecosystem, because everything needs to sit on an engine to begin with. And when things start to sit on the same layer, then you could unlock quite a bit. And that's kind of how Onchain City was born. Token 2049, they went a little bit deeper on it, and then back to March, I believe, April was when I decided, okay, this thing, if it works, it changes the face of humanity. So I can't, I need to be full-time on it. And I just went right in.
And your past experience with CBDCs and breach network turbulence, maybe how it shaped.
Yeah, what's crazy? I have all this some background, been in the space for about the past 10 years, done a bunch of random stuff, as you would imagine. And I look at all of these things, I'm like, wow, they all come together to help me like get to this stage. Because if I hadn't go through these things, I wouldn't have been able to like have the mental models that I do now. So on the CBDC side, for some context, I used to work with this company, bit.com, back in 2015. And they accidentally created the first CBDC. So it was a crypto exchange. People wanted to buy Bitcoin. They would give Barbados dollars, and we'd have to go convert that to US dollars and then give them their Bitcoin. So we're like, okay, why don't we just tokenize the Barbados dollars? At that time, Kolu was a big thing, so colored coins. So we used that to essentially put the Barbados dollar on chain. And when we did this, the founder, Gabriel and Oliver, they obviously went out. They thought this is revolutionary. Imagine if every central bank did this. And then the Barbados government was like, hold up, you can't just put our dollar on chain. Like there's so many like things that go on in the background, and there's a lot of dependencies and a lot of things that come from just making your dollar so global. So I wouldn't say it got shut down by the Central Bank of Barbados, but there's a lot of pushback. But as you know now, CBDCs is like sort of well adopted, and every central bank is looking at it. So I did that for some time, work with some other exchanges, help take them to revenue. One is publicly traded now. And then I decided to go and do my own thing. This was on the Bridge Network side. So Bridge Network, we were essentially connecting blockchains together, and I had the concept for it before Bridgin was really a thing, but something about being female, we never like have conviction in what we do until we get some external validation, and I didn't have the confidence to push it forward. Eventually I did. Ended up getting rugged by some of my co-founders, so that was not fun, but definitely a learning lesson. However, when I think about Bridge Network and building out that architecture and that system design, I see it being applied in city, because at the end of the day, like, it's all about interconnectivity. If we can put information on the same layer and different stakeholders are able to read that information, you unlock so much for the industry. So using the mental model of interoperability, I sort of applied that to Onchain City. So it all sort of came together when I looked at all the random things that I've done in the past.
Yeah, definitely. But maybe you can make a elevator storyboard. What is the liquid nation is? Because I really love these words that you use on the website and all the documents.
Liquid nation is sort of, I describe it as the entire value chain of a nation sitting on chain. When it's on chain, it's a lot more transferable, therefore it's a lot more liquid. When things are a lot more liquid, you can have a lot more economic activity with it. And low-hanging fruit, an easy example that we can think of is sort of real estate. There were periods in time, and actually Barbados is still very much within the same state of their land registry. They don't have a digital land registry, but there's hundreds of millions, if not billions, in land that cannot be utilized. So it's basically like dead capital. If you now digitalize this and you make it accessible to the entire globe, you have a fully liquid society. And when you have a liquid society, you could basically spur tremendous economic activity from it. So I describe liquidation as the ability to make the assets within your value chain liquid.
Does it connect it somehow with more older term of liquid democracy?
So not really. So liquid democracy is more where I have a vote and I can delegate that vote to you. You might be way more experienced on a specific topic to vote on my behalf. But I guess the commonality here is the transferability, the ability to transfer the rights to that thing. So I'm essentially transferring the rights to my vote. In the liquid nation thesis, everything, for example, land or even your assets like data centers, I can easily transfer these things very quickly.
And real problems of single mom in the city. She's a teacher in Manila, for example. I don't know how this concept will help her, actually.
One way that's relatively easy to get across is there's all of these micro hardware devices, especially on the deep inside, that is being built and that can be embedded into homes. You can create a completely new stream of income for individuals simply by offering these deep in type infrastructure. And that in alone is so powerful. I'm seen with the whole deep in wave. But now you connect that to identity. You can do something even more interesting, which is show that person's track record with all of these deep in infrastructure and how they've been, what they've been mining, what they've actually been doing, and connect it to what their actual identity is, which is a more expressive form of identification. So the low-hanging fruit is you can now take all of these micro infrastructure and embed it into the everyday person's life and open up a lot more opportunities for them. So let's say you have a micro data center in your house and that data center was tokenized. That's an asset in itself. Should the bank recognize it, that she's able to unlock even more capital for her to do other things with, Let's say she took that loan, she paid back on time, like everything was fine. That reputation could be connected to her identity. So when she travels or she goes to do something else, she wants to take a business loan now, you can kind of show that path very clearly because all of the systems are interconnected. The key thing here is that like these things operate in silos. So sure, you can have like this agri-tech implemented, but if it doesn't connect, like how does the government know that this individual has been doing all of this interesting things and unlocking so much like economic activity for themselves? There's no real way of knowing that. And so the idea is to like build an engine that enables like the interconnectivity of all of these type of tooling that exists.
Yeah.
So just to recap, the TLDR is Onchain City itself. It's like not a physical city. It's an engine that powers other city, whether it's a network, say, or whether it's an entire country. It's an engine that they can leverage to solve for many things. And the three main things that we're solving for is identity that could be read by any government, tokenization of assets. So that's looking at all of the asset registries within a nation and ensuring that everything within those asset registries are tokenized. When they're tokenized, they become liquid. And when you become liquid, you essentially become a liquid nation. And the last one I forgot to add is on the registration of companies and being able to have a multi-jurisdictional entity where, let's say you wanted to launch a company, you should be able to do that in 5 minutes and select whatever host country you want to use.
As I understood, right now it's concentrated in Barbados and the countries in this area. And what is the next steps?
Yeah, so the government of Barbados have been very helpful here. They're establishing a digital free zone for us. So with having that digital free zone there, we are able to sort of experiment with someone like launching a company very quickly and all the data within that company already being on chain. So when that happens, you can now easily do M&As directly on chain because you don't have to go through the intermediary process of the compliance and due diligence that typically happens off chain, which is a very bureaucratic and slow process. You can just do that very quickly. So Barbados has been very instrumental in all of this. They have a new minister, Jonathan Reed, the Minister of Innovation, Technology and Science, who's also been helping us quite a bit to mobilize this. They're also setting up something called the International Digital Economy Authority. As you would imagine, everything sitting within this digital economy layer, there's a lot of second order effects that happened, that would happen when all economies start to speak to each other. So having a global regulator will be extremely important for this. And Barbados is actually championing a lot of these initiatives here.
It's hard to think about just one nation. You need network effect to everybody can be on chain and everybody can trade all these assets. You think about cooperation.
Exactly. Like that is the idea. The idea is to work with every nation, even network states themselves, which are becoming mini nations. One thing that we are solving for is the ability to travel between, for example, Barbados and the UAE. And so you would need both of them fully on board there. So you should be able to enter a country with your on-chain ID, which is a better form of identification than your passport. So in order for this to work, both countries need to kind of like define what their policies are, define what their controls and their security measures are. So we would 100% be working with multiple nations, which we're currently doing.
I just came from Montenegro months ago, sir, where UK, FCDO gathered a lot of people from Eastern Europe and Central Asia. And it was first time when I heard from officials something like value-based states, heard even the blockchain couple of times, and they're like, whoa, something changing here. And even established democracy in thinking about this, at least. I also saw Savannah economic zone just ended in Kazakhstan. Do you see this region like next steps, or what is the roadmap for you?
I think a lot of these emerging markets, like they had their moment. It's very similar like on the AI side of things, where a lot of folks can come up against the big techs of the world because things are just a lot more accessible. And it's the same for like the Kazakhstans, the Southeast Asian countries. We have a large amount of human capital that is sitting on this digital layer. And the only thing that is stopping that human capital from flowing into specific countries is their borders and policies that they have right now. So, I mean, I spoke to a few persons last week, and this was across 3 governments, and they've told me they've either written their blockchain strategy or like their digital nation strategy. So I think every single nation is going to figure out a way to tap into the digital economy. And Kazakhstan, like I know, is very, very much aligned there, and they're very open to explore what these solutions sort of look like. So a lot of it is in the exploratory phase, but a lot of the main concerns have been around data privacy. But thankfully, crypto have all the primitives. We have zero knowledge, and soon I believe FHE will be close to where zero knowledge is as well. So we have all the systems in place to make this happen. I would also say that most of my time at least is spent educating government officials on the difference between crypto and cryptography. That's like a very important distinction that pumped these narratives into our head about crypto. So as soon as you hear the terminology, there's a lot of biases that are created. So there's a lot of legwork to be done with education, but it's happening faster than ever before.
My background is I'm originally from Belarus, and right now, like my passport expires like in 4 years, and I can't renew it because of political situation in my country, unfortunately. And I'm very desire of on-chain passports and all these identity systems. Do you see it in one future, or it's still too long, and all the bureaucracy will be stagnating?
I'm very optimistic, and what's the saying? It's better to be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. So I don't know that my prediction here is correct. I would say it is inevitable that it will happen. Whether it happen within the next 5 to 10 years is dependent on how well persons like yourself and myself and the community is able to work alongside the government. And I think there's been a natural shift in the crypto industry from like full anarchism to more let's collaborate with governments, because I don't believe you can be an anarchist if you hold a passport. As long as you hold a passport, you're subscribing to a set of ideologies and the controls of that specific government. It's not possible, but I feel like as a crypto industry, we are maturing enough to realize this. And that being said, there's a lot of educational efforts being done. Perhaps within, I would like to say, in less than 5 years. And for my own bias, I would say that.
I will definitely want this. And if you can sign me to your waiting list for your on-chain passport, I all in. Please do this as fast as possible.
Definitely. You're on. And we have there's a lot of stuff happening in the US with the O1 visas and individuals. So this is the best time to experiment with something like this.
But 5 years, okay.
I'll try to make it happen faster.
What specifically you want to solve this on-chain project?
Childhood trauma probably has to do with the desire to feel important. Maybe if I, solve some of these problems, I leave a mark on the world and build something that people want to use. I was a very invisible kid. I didn't speak a lot like this. I used to identify as an introvert all my life up to 2 months ago. And then I realized that was just me being afraid to speak up because of the repercussions of it. So there's some trauma there of wanting to feel seen and wanting to feel valued. And so the way to solve for that is to build something that delivers value to the entire world that people use.
Back to on-chain project. It's a venture-backed project. In some way, it's something in the middle with people's lives, purpose, and all this stuff. Do you have in mind already a governance model and how maybe this knife fight situation in your past can be implemented to make safe environment in this place?
I'm glad you asked that question. Yesterday I just sent out a thing to some of the core contributors. We're actually building out a framework for this. The end state is to build an L2 beat for nations on chain. So it kind of shows, what parts of the value chain of that nation is on chain and what is the implementation process framework. So we're rallying policymakers, researchers, privacy experts to help build out what this optimal framework would look like. It will be sort of like a think tank, and then we will publish an open source report that anyone can utilize.
You want to cooperate with governments. You want to make this partnership very directly. And at the same time, a lot of people in crypto don't believe in this. And we have a lot of projects like Prospera that have some issues right now. How you can not to make this nightmare for a project?
As long as you hold a passport and you're also in crypto, you yourself are subscribed into a government. So as long as you are on Earth, there are borders and countries and laws that have been developed. And so for so long, we have tried to jump over that when in actuality, we should try to integrate with that. And I think that's been the missing gap for so long. In terms of dealing with the very anarchist side of crypto, I would say that's where privacy comes into play. There's enough technology out there, and the privacy space is accelerating faster than ever. All the primitives are there where you can still work with the government and still maintain sovereignty over your information. So I don't think it's one way or the other. And we're seeing these primitives implemented at scale. I think Google just implemented zero knowledge within one of their Google Pay wallets. So this will continue to scale. And I guess I would ask the question to individuals who are very on the anarchist side is, what has that gotten us? How far has that gotten us by doing these things? Even look at stable coins. The government is the one regulating the stable coins. So as much as we would like to build this very open system where we have no regulators, we live on this earth where we have borders. And as long as we have borders, that means that someone is enforcing them. And so it's finding ways to work with that and then scaling out of that eventually, probably within the next 100 years. But the first step is to connect the two.
Last year, I had a lot of conversation about space, actually. In Cyprus, they have a space exploration organization, and we talk about space governments. It's interesting that there is still not a space governments committee, and we talk about how to implement this and maybe create even a special economic zone in space, and where can be a sandbox to play with some stuff. And it sounds really real, actually, for me. And it can be interesting for all these crypto anarchist people as well. But,
Look, I mean, if we wanted, we can just we can invest all the money that we're making in crypto and just build rocket ships. It's probably the better thing to do.
And you mentioned your Bankless projects, and do you see they can be implemented in this and create a kind of like an on-chain Bankless city?
I definitely see a lot of the projects within the Bankless portfolio being able to leverage the stuff that we build with Onchain City. I don't know what shape that will take just yet, but some low-hanging fruits are on the emerging market stablecoins. It's on the DeFi apps that are offering under collateralized loans. It's on the Deepin ecosystem. These are some of the low-hanging one. If they want to go create their own city from it, yeah, we're happy to support that.
When you presented this project in Dubai, you said a lot about culture. You see on-chain can integrate new culture or just play with existing culture on Barbados?
Yeah. So I actually think Dubai is like a great representation of what the culture of Onchain City is intended to create. Just imagine that at scale for other countries. So in Dubai, like Dubai is one of the most open nation. There's a lot of people from a lot of different cultures and they mix and they meddle, but the Emiratis are still able to maintain their own culture. The Indians that are here are still able to maintain their own culture and they have a space for everyone. So I think like the fusion of culture and the fusion of so many different mindsets and backgrounds and, knowledge graphs coming together is literally what made Dubai what it is right now. And if we apply that same model to every country, imagine what the world would be. Like, we'd probably be a lot more harmony. I can't even say the word. We could be a lot more in harmony than we are right now. Right now is just, this is my culture. This is who I am. If you don't subscribe to it, then I'm going to shut you off from this. And as we can see with efforts in globalization, that is just like, that's not productive.
Yeah, I see it a lot here in Lisbon actually, because around 20% of people are living in Lisbon, not from Portugal at all. And there are so many cafes, restaurants, and just clubs opening and inviting their cultures, their people, their foods. It's really good because I don't like Portuguese food. It's too fat, but I really love to go any other nation's food restaurant. But at the same time, we have so much right-wing movements right now across Europe, US, and other countries.
I would say is with the current economic systems that we have right now, I feel like the world will coordinate itself in a way for it to be more interconnected than separate. And worst comes to worst, we go to Mars.
Can I ask you to close your eyes for
Okay.
a couple of minutes? Yeah, you can breathe a little bit. It's not 2025. It's already 2035. What a long journey. How your days looking like? What new technologies emerge in this space?
I see just like a lot more freedom and sovereignty, and most of my mental space in 2035 is not occupied with how do we fix the world's problems, but how do we be more present in the day, being able to travel, go places without having to ask ChatGPT, do I need a visa for this? Do I need XYZ? I see a world where the place that I live in is paid for using all of the infrastructure that is, mining data, whether it's a data center or, for example, like a helium network. I see like a fully automated system where I don't have to do anything really. I can just be present. And I also always wanted to create my own tea, so I can do that. I'm definitely doing that in 2035.
What a bright future. What a good that we still have so many optimists here. Thank you.
It was a great exercise.
You mentioned tea. What tea do you want to make?
So I love drinking teas. I love green teas, I love black teas, but I love when I discover a combination of the two and I'm still able to get the health benefits while like preserving the taste. So I really want to create my own tea brand at some point of time. I want to have a tea farm. I want to have really nice packaging and I want to be able to gift it to my friends. So it's something on the roadmap. But after I solve all these burning problems that my childhood trauma feels like I have the need to solve.
So if you want to tokenize your childhood trauma or your city where you're living right now, DM Kimberly in Twitter. This space is emerging right now, just 2 years, and we already have emerging so many mature projects that not thinking about only space stations, but real world application with real world people.
Thank you, Ray. This was a fun conversation.